£3 million in prize money. 5 races, 1 day. The inaugural QIPCO British Champions Series reaches its spectacular crescendo at Ascot on Saturday with the richest fixture ever staged in this country. Will Frankel enhance his reputation as the world's best racehorse? Can Nathaniel remain unbeaten at Ascot? Or will the mare Midday be his high noon? Will Dancing Rain waltz into the winner's circle? Is the greatest threat to society rock in the stable next door? Will Opinion Poll remain a model of consistency? Can it be a day to remember for an old master, Sir Henry Cecil, or a young blood, Mahmoud Al-Zaruni? And can the Ascot factor give Frankie Dettori an edge over Tom Queally in the riding stakes? Pull up a chair for the Armchair Jockeys preview of British Champions Day. And this magnificent day's racing starts with the QIPCO British Champions Long Distance Cup for stayers, and we'll preview this race under the watchful gaze of one of the greatest stayers of the modern era in Yates, who won the Ascot Gold Cup 4 times. But we're going to talk first of all about Opinion Poll, Steve, a horse who has been a key player in the staying races this season.
Yeah, he's been a model of consistency. He represents a good level of form without being a great level of form.
Well, let's hear from the guy who will be aboard Opinion Poll come the big day, Frankie Dettori.
Well, I still believe that soft going it'd be much better for him. I mean, he's very versatile. He handles fast ground as well, but I think he's got that little edge on soft ground. Perhaps the 2 mile to a Doncaster show that he's just about his stamina limit. So, you know, obviously over 2 miles he can be more aggressive, be close to the pace, but you know, he is very consistent. The only little scare that I've got with this quite new whip rules is going to be pretty difficult because he's tremendously lazy at times, so I'll have to be quite careful.
Well, Frankie Dettori has a fantastic day ahead of him, but what did you make about his thoughts on Opinion Poll, Lydia?
I thought the point he made about the whip really quite chimed with me. Opinion Poll is not an eager type of horse, and the new whip rules means that the horse that requires more encouragement in order to be able to show their full form, the whip rules have sort of moved away from them slightly, and I think Opinion Poll is very consistent, has a good level of form, but anything I think that slightly tips the balance out of his favour, I think has got to be taken seriously as a negative, and I think that is a negative. It chimed with me.
Okay, well, Opinion Poll was second in the Ascot Gold Cup to fame and glory, who, like Yates, is trained by Aidan O'Brien and he's owned, or part-owned, by John Magnier.
Well, Aidan says those horses that run in the races like the Gold Cup, you have to have them so fit to perform well that very often afterwards you know you can get a dip in form, and we've seen that with Yates. So we're hoping that this fella can recover his form.
Is he showing any signs of doing that?
Well, you know, we would say that he is showing signs, wouldn't we?
I think the form that he's showing at the moment means that he's beatable. What really concerns me is that I think that the last run in the Irish St Leger was worse than the run before in the Irish St Leger trial. So he's not even as if he's coming back to form, he's actually going the other way.
Now, a horse who is on the way up is Time's Up, a very much improving stayer. We can hear from his trainer, John Dunlop.
We've only run him once over 2 miles, and he was very impressive in a strongly run, true gallop. And he really came out looking like a very good horse over that trip. No doubt.
He seems to be improving. Can that be right, given the age he is?
Well, he's a 5-year-old only just, and he hasn't run all that much through his career. And now, given good ground and a good gallop and 2 miles, he looks a pretty good horse.
He does indeed. You mentioned the good ground. He comes from a family where lots of them love some cut in the ground. He won a big handicap with some cut in the ground.
He won the November handicap last back end when it was soft, of course, but I think he's better on this fast ground. Suits him better.
Well, Time's Up was very impressive at Newmarket. I like the fact that we just don't know how far he's going to go yet.
That's definitely the point, I think. Last time, when he was really impressive, it was the first time he'd ever tackled 2 miles. Now, his breeding, it's really staunch, staying family. It was always the expectation, my expectation, many people's expectation, that he would improve stepping up to 2 miles. He duly did. He was so impressive, he just brushed aside quite credible opposition. So he's unexposed at this distance. We don't know how good he might be. I think his very best form is on fast ground. I don't think he'd be completely up against it if some rain was to come before Saturday. I just think the progressive profile of this horse I really like.
Yeah, it makes Time's Up a big player in the Long Distance Cup. Next up is the QIPCO British Champion Sprint for some of the fastest horses in Europe, and a trainer with a very strong hand is James Fanshawe. He's responsible for Deacon Blues and Society Rock. First of all, let's talk about Deacon Blues, a horse who seemingly is at his best on soft ground. Does he need soft ground? Does fast ground concern you?
I don't think he needs soft ground, but he just likes good ground. He doesn't want it any firmer than good.
He comes from the same family as Warningford, a horse who got better with time, horse that you trained. Is he the similar sort of type in that he's getting better with time?
Well, he's obviously improved tremendously from 3 to 4. He was just always missing in handicaps last year, going up the handicap, not winning second and third. He won one race as a 3-year-old, and this year, well, he was never really moving that well last year, so never covering much ground. And at home, he's still showing a lot of ability. And at the end of the season, we were a bit frustrated with him, and so we decided to geld him. And his action's improved, and it is a family that gets better with age, and I think there's a combination of the two has really helped him.
On to Society Rock. His peak performances seem to come at Ascot.
Well, he has done very well at Ascot. I was pleased to see how he ran such a good race in the Maurice de Geest when he was second there in the Group 1 away from Ascot, because it gives us more options for him, because you think to yourself, well, he's an Ascot horse, but he's won at Newmarket as well. But he's run 3 times at Ascot, he's won twice, and was second in the Golden Jubilee to Star Spangled Banner, so his record there is very good. And I don't know if it's because he's good at Ascot, or so far it's been a good track to us.
Yeah. And is it possible for you, anyone at all, to get it out of you which horse is going into the race with a better chance, given the ground conditions and the track?
Well, obviously, I think there is rain forecast, but Deacon Blues would be a better home worker. If you want to go on the homework, you'd say Deacon Blues every time, but Society Rock loves Ascot.
Well, of the pair, Society Rock is the established Group 1 horse, and his nickname in the yard, Steve, is the Rock, which I think is quite apt.
Yeah, he's a toughie. He's got good level of consistent form this year. His Group 1 win came here at Ascot in the Golden Jubilee at the Royal Meeting, so that's a plus. But subsequent form suggests he's got maybe just a little below the very best.
I think the problem is that he's held on the running with Moonlight Cloud, who we're going to come on to. He just looks held by that. His asset, I think, is his course and distance form. You mentioned the win in the Golden Jubilee. The previous year he was also second to Star Spangled Banner, so this is his specialist track.
And the impression I got from being down at the yard is they just think Deacon Blues is the more talented of the pair. That was the impression I got anyway. Deacon Blues is the one who is going up, you suspect?
Definitely, he definitely is. I've been a fan of this horse for ages. I saw him make his debut at Nottingham as a 2-year-old, so I've followed him all the way through. He's really taken giant strides forwards this season. He won the Wokingham over the course and distance, which is a handicap, so a lesser grade, but since then he's proved himself up in grade. This will be his toughest assignment yet. I think any rain will definitely help him. I think he's a major player. I prefer him quite strongly to Society Rock, personally.
Okay. Well, Society Rock was comfortably beaten by Moonlight Cloud in France, Steve, and she's going to be a formidable horse for both of them to take on.
Yeah, I strongly fancy Moonlight Cloud. One of the little theories I have about sprint racing is that the very best horses, when they're 2-year-olds, are trained for next year's classics. The top 2-year-olds are trained for next year's classics. And what happens sometimes is that a horse will have a classic campaign, and for one reason or another, they're either not quite good enough or they don't quite stay. Yeah. And I think that's the case with Moonlight Cloud. She was aimed at the 1,000 guineas. I don't think she quite stays. She's been brought back to sprint distances, and I think she was very impressive last time out in France. She thrashed Society Rock, and I think she represents the top of her generation now running back at a trip which really suits her.
Well, there's a horse who I quite like, Defeat, but before I talk about him, I'd like to hear what his trainer, William Haggis, has to say.
He's a hugely talented horse, but he needs soft ground, and he ran extremely well at Doncaster on fast ground, which I don't think he enjoyed. He's full of confidence at the moment. He's dangerous to ignore because he's got a lot of talent.
So although official figures say he's got a bit to find, you think
he's got
the latent ability is there?
He's got a lot to find, but he could do anything, and fresh horses at this time of the year have a better chance than normal.
Well, we'll go back to last year, and Defeat showed his ability when he beat Deacon Blues at Newmarket, albeit narrowly, but he gave him £10 that day. And he's a horse who's always been thought of having enormous amount of ability. The question mark has been about his temperament, but he's with a trainer who is good at getting quirky horses, I think, to do their best.
I definitely think, clearly on that form line he's a threat. They both like soft ground. I think they both need soft ground to show their best. Maybe Deacon Blues is a bit more versatile.
Okay, selections, Steve?
Strong Moonlight Cloud.
And Lydia, for you?
I'm going to have to stick with Deacon Blues, just because I've been a fan all of his racing life, and I'd feel a bit, cheap if I was going to desert him at this moment in time. But I'll be honest, I find it impossible to pick a hole in the Moonlight Clyde argument.
Yeah, I think Moonlight Cloud is indeed an exceptional filly, but I'm going to take a chance on DeFeef. I just hope that he puts it all in. That's been the question mark against him in the past. He's certainly got the ability.
You've always been a forgiving soul.
Two jockeys have dominated the QIPCO British Champion Series, Frankie Dettori and Tom Queally. Let's find out a bit more about them and their hopes for the big day.
Would have to be Frankel. He's set the standard all year, and he's unbeaten in all his starts. He's my trump card.
My best chance, the opinion of Porsche, he won 2 cups this year. Most of my horses soft ground is key, so I'll be doing the rain dance.
I suppose I wouldn't want the heavens to open for midday. She's better on a quicker surface. He's very strong in a finish. He's been around and he's ridden in all those top races, and he's a hard man to beat. He's arguably probably one of the best jockeys in the world.
His greatest strength is his riding Franco. I wish also riding Franco as well. I think working for Henry Celso made him a better jockey, gave him a lot of confidence, and that's his strength now.
I'd like to have a helicopter land in the back garden and take me racing. It would cut endless hours off my daily workload, and it would make my life an awful lot easier.
Champagne. All the way. After the races, obviously.
Next is the QIPCO British Champions Fillies and Mares race, and we start this preview by hearing from some of the connections of the leading contenders.
She's an improving filly. She ran very well in the, unlucky probably in the Lancashire Oaks when the saddle slipped round, when she got bumped. The jockey lost his balance and took the saddle with him, He didn't go back, he went round. She ran a great race in the, giving a lot of weight in the Yorkshire Oaks. I've been really pleased with her. I mean, I did have a little bit of there's always something, a little bit of a hiccup. She worked last Wednesday really nicely, easy work, but very nicely, with midday. And she came back and she sort of, she was blowing a bit, which she shouldn't have been really. And then she settled down, and after breakfast she was lame, and I think there's a chance she actually got cast in her box, and she was very, very sore across her back and everything, and could hardly walk. And anyway, we took her down and we had her scanned and put the machines all over and everything, and she didn't have any fracture. I was worried about her pelvis or something like that. And there was a sort of really sore knot on her quarters and everything. Anyway, that seems to be disappeared, and she's sound.
Is that common, Henry, in your experience?
No, but I'll tell you what, she once actually got cast before the Yorkshire Oaks. I mean, she was very lame, and that was about 2 weeks before. And I managed to get her back, and she was fine. And she looked good this morning and good yesterday. And we got a chance. I'll just feel my way with her, and as long as she's all right, I think I'll get to church on time.
Briefly on the Epsom Oaks, at the time, people were very praising of Johnny Mercer's rides, as they got the horse ideally positioned in a steadily run race, dominated by horses up front. Do you think in any way she was flattered? Do you think the Irish Oaks suggested it was, or do you think that's not fair?
I think the way the form has worked out, she undoubtedly benefited from a good ride. However, Johnny was not happy after the Irish Oaks and felt that it didn't quite go his way, and I think he learned more about her after Ireland than he did before after Epsom. So I think she's a strong galloping filly, and I think Johnny felt that he waited a bit and let them swamp him in Ireland. And if you watch the rerun, she didn't actually, they nicked 2 lengths off her at the top of the straight, and they were no further away from her at the line. In fact, she was staying on quite nicely again at the line. So I think I'd love to rerun the Irish Oaks again.
Interesting. Rather than being flattered then, would you say that making the running, because of her style of running, suits her? I've noticed her just looking up before, and there 3 times she's made the running, she's won each time, including last time in Germany.
Well, I don't think she has to make the running, but I think she wants a consistent, good, strong. She's a good galloping filly, so I think she needs that sort of gallop.
Roger, we're excited about seeing Firdouss back in action again. What is the story with her? Because being a 4-year-old, she's only had a handful of races.
Yeah, she's lightly raced, isn't she? You'd still say she's inexperienced. But no, she, after winning at Haydock in the spring, she had a setback which has kept her out of action all summer. And she's fine now. She's been back in work quite a while, and the plan's always been to get her ready for this race at Ascot.
I didn't really want to run her much. She ran on April the 30th, so she's busy in the spring, won very nicely there. When she won that list, I said, right, we'll wait for the Lancashire Oaks, and which we did, and she won. I wanted to give her a freshen up. I was going to go for the Prix Vermeil, and I just wasn't quite happy with her blood going into that race, so I took her out at the 5-day stage. Otherwise she would have gone to Prix Vermeil and then here. And she's great now, working nicely, so she's ready to go to Ascot.
And therefore, have you taken the view that she is at her best when fresh?
I just didn't want to be trying to run her in the middle of October and going through the whole summer. And once she won the Group 2, there's very few opportunities for them. She then had to go to a race like this or a Group 1. Well, the only Group 1, I never put her in the Yorkshire Oaks. I wasn't going to supplement her with my wife's money. I wouldn't get away with that. And so I just quite simply said, I'll go to the Vermeil. We put her in that, and then the blood wasn't right. We didn't want to run her and ship her, and then she's waited for this race. She'll run here, and then all being well, we'll retire and she'll go to be bred by Oasis Dream.
I like Dancing Rain because I like the fact that she, having won the Epsom Oaks and then seemingly hit at the ceiling of her ability in the Irish Oaks, people thought that's as good as she is. After that, it looked like she took a step up. Would that be fair?
I don't think so, but I can see the counter-argument. I think that her form of winning when she was well positioned by Johnny Murtagh to win the Oaks and the win in Germany last time are pretty much similar.
I think the horse most liable to run her race is Dancing Rain, and there's a possibility she could get either her own way out in front or being ridden near the front. I just think she's going to run some sort of race, and I think she's up there with the best of them.
So I'm going to take a flyer. I'm going to go with Firdouss, just because of that impression she made on me when I was surprised that she beat Vita Nova. I think she's capable of more. She's clearly capable of going well fresh. The yard have got some very good horses. The stable companion Narain has just won the Opera. That's a very good angle into what's needed to win this. So Firdouss for me.
Sectional timing returns to this country on QIPCO British Champions Day. This tool for analysis, which is used in most other racing jurisdictions, existed selectively in Britain until 2008. On British Champions Day, every horse will carry a transmitter in its saddle cloth, which will feed back in real time information on a horse's position in a race many times per furlong. This technology, provided by Turf Tracks, enables us to deduce the time taken between certain specified points and the precise distance covered by each horse. Sectionals tell us with greater accuracy than the naked eye about which horses might have been helped or hindered by how a race was run. A too slow or too fast early pace will compromise a horse's ability to get from A to B in the quickest possible time. A variation in pace tips the balance in favour or against horses with superior speed or superior stamina. Sectional timing can also identify horses whose ability surpasses what might otherwise be apparent from the result and winning time. A key example is this year's Coronation Stakes at Royal Ascot. The early leaders dropped away, whereas the winner and second were in the last 2 positions on the final bend. These bare facts can sometimes suggest there was an advantage to being patiently ridden. However, Sectional showed that Immortal Verse, the winner, was in no way flattered. She ran the last 3 furlongs and 104.4% of her average race speed. A par performance would essentially be 100%. Sectional timings also marked out Frankel, even as a 2-year-old, as something special. His finishing speed in the last 3 furlongs of the Royal Lodge Stakes at Ascot last September was hand-recorded at 38 miles an hour, or 107.5% of his average race speed. The optimum way in which to achieve his final time of 101.73 seconds is to run the last 3 furlongs in just under 38.15 seconds, that is, 3/8 of the total time. Frankel actually ran the final 3 furlongs in approximately 35.5 seconds. That is a huge difference in racing terms and a measure of the untapped potential implicit in the performance. The emergence of Frankel, with his spectacular style of racing, has demanded more exact analysis of his achievements and has done much to increase the clamour for sectional timing to return more widely in Britain. Thanks to Simon Rowlands for his analysis, and if you'd like to learn more about sectional timing, then just visit the Timeform website. Now it's time for the first Group 1 of the day, the Queen Elizabeth II Stakes, and it features the horse who's provided the most captivating story of the season, Frankel, and he's trained by Sir Henry Cecil.
Frankel, I mean, I gave him quite a long rest after the Sussex, and he seems to have strength, and I'm just trying to time it. You know, it's not easy to time it exactly right. For Ascot, and he's coming back really well. I started on him slightly earlier than I might have, because I'd rather be ahead of time and be able to pull him back a little bit rather than trying to catch the train. You know, if you know you're a gallop behind, I mean, you don't want to be knocking the edge of the horse. You know, it's better if you can get him there and then probably pull back a little bit so he's fresh and happy. And but at the moment, with him, everything's gone very well. I mean, he's done very well. He's stronger looking than he was early in the year. He's definitely strengthening. I think next year, I mean, he's going to be a very strong horse, and look at him physically. Will him be an improved horse even on this year? Everything's going well. I mean, he seems in very good form, and he looks stronger. He's grown up a lot. You know, he's relaxing much more. So I don't think that's a problem. You know? And I think that sort of touch wood that we'll go there, without any excuses.
Well, seemingly, Frankel is going to be the horse to beat. Everything he's done this season suggests that he is head and shoulders above all horses at a mile. What are the concerns?
I think he's a tough race. I think you've got to appreciate. I think it's his toughest task today. He's reached a level of form now, a level of reputation as well, that he's just got to turn up to win. I just don't think that's fair on him or the opposition. It will take another really good performance by him to win. Obviously he's capable of it. If Frankel turns up at his best, he'll win.
My concern would be he was very, very fresh on his seasonal debut, hard to control. He was very, very fresh in the 2000 Guineas. We haven't seen him since the end of July. Might he be very fresh again? Difficult to control, difficult to harness his energy in the even distribution of energy that you need in order to deliver your best performance. And particularly if it's a small field on this straight track, might that make for complications? It's a small hole I'm picking, but I think it's potentially there.
Well, there are a few significant opponents to Frankel. One of those is Acceleration. He's trained by Marco Botti.
I have to say how our horse has improved through his 3-year-old career, and perhaps he's a much stronger horse in the autumn than he was in the spring. I thought it was impressive in the Prix de Le Moulin on the soft ground. So yeah, we probably we're looking at a better horse now, but whether it's enough to beat Frankel, it's hard to say.
I think Acceleration is too easy, I think, to write off because he's met him twice and he's got beaten twice. I think he has got better since then. He's winning the Hungerford and he's winning France last time out. I think showed a different level to the form he was showing earlier in the season. I think they're very happy with him. I think the second half of the season has gone very well. And I think those last two performances have been that of a high-class miler. Frankel wasn't around. I think we really would be, we'd be hopeful of him.
Yeah, we'd be very excited by what Acceleration has done if Frankel not around. I definitely feel he's improved since they last encountered each other.
He has improved, but on all-known form, Frankel is the superior of Acceleration. Now, one horse that Frankel hasn't encountered yet is the brilliant French filly Immortal Verse. She'll be ridden on the day by Gérald Mosse.
She's top class one, like really top one. The way she performed, the way she act, it's just fantastic. She improved every other race. She showed already a good stage in Ascot, and then she confirmed in Deauville. I think back to Ascot again and see what's going on the 15 against the cold and the champion, because, well, it's not going to be easy job, but it's going to be a good race. She is a bit, she was a little bit like, I would say, a bit fragile mentally, not physically. And I think now she starts to become more mature and stronger. So to be on board of the air jet like that, I think it's really a good feeling.
Do you think this will be Frankel's toughest task of his career, facing a horse like Immortal Verse?
Well, you have to be good to beat me.
This is the Frankel versus Canford Cliffs in another guise, isn't it? It's Frankel versus Immortal Verse, and Immortal Verse, as you say, has got that very potent kick, which will require Tom Queally once again to utilise Frankel's energy to draw out that sting that Immortal Verse has during the course of the race. So he will need to get that right. I think his real problem is not only does he have that to deal with, he also has acceleration potentially to deal with. So it's not one horse that they're worrying about, which was the case last time, for example. It's a couple of horses that have different styles of running that are both potential threats.
Time to make our selections for the race. I think we'll all universally agree that there's one horse to beat, clearly.
Yeah, I agree with what Lydia said. I think Frankel is one of the great horses I've seen. And if the Frankel at his best turns up, which I really hope he does, I think he'll win. But if he does win, just don't underestimate what he's taking on. This is a good race, but Frankel's the best horse in the race, definitely.
Yeah, I can't say that I think instinctively that he's the best horse I've ever seen live and then tip another horse in the race. I can see scenarios where things might happen and he might not be seen at his best, and that could leave him vulnerable. But on everything we know, he wins, but it would be a big achievement nonetheless, because this is the toughest race. And I don't think that should be downplayed at all.
That's what I really like about this race, is the fact that for Frankel to win again, it has to be another magnificent performance, another lifting of his already high standard. Yeah. And that's what I love about this QE2. I think Poet's Voice might run a big race. The final race on British Champions Day is the most valuable of the afternoon. It's the QIPCO Champion Stakes, and we can now hear from some of those closest to the leading contenders.
So you think, what's your reading of what happened in the Arc?
Well, I would say, and I don't want to sound like a bad loser, but the draw was a big issue. And I think the horse ran a good race, not taking anything from the winner or any of the other horses. You know, it was a track record, I believe, and, you know, there were good horses there, so, you know, it's a fair race.
And is he a horse that thrives on his racing? Because obviously that's quite a quick reappearance.
Yeah, well, he's done that for us already, but he's done it several times in Australia. So he's got an unbelievable physique, so coming back quickly, we don't think is the problem for him.
I see him as no problem really with a 1.25 miles, because if you analyse very carefully the King George, it wound up being a 1.25 miles race. I mean, they just dawdled and looked at each other down the hill until suddenly it was decided that Debussy would go on. And then from the 1.25 mile gate, after 2 phones, he then starts setting a pace. But until then, they might as well have been trotting as hat cantering, you know. So he's got this tactical speed. He's a nice sort of horse. I think all of us live slightly in trepidation about the draw, because there's no doubt that the draw at Ascot, at the 1.25 mile gate, you know, if you get outside of a biggish field, you're on that bend fast. So I think we'll be watching the draw anxiously, is the correct word.
How big would the field have to be to get you anxious if you were wide?
Oh, I think once you get over 10, 11 runners, you've got to be worried then.
Would you prefer some rain between now and Saturday?
I never made a secret, having trained most of them out of the mare, and a lot of group winners there, they all appreciate giving the ground, just as she did. And if it's in your family, it's in your family.
Midday will go on the faster ground. I mean, you'd like to have a little bit of give in the ground for twice over. He hasn't got the best of feet. I think with Midday, I think sort of she's got that one good burst, yeah? And I think that at York she got in Coronation Cup, you know, she came so early, had won her race and thought that was it, yeah? And I think at York, you know, a brown horse, he faded quite quickly in front of her and left her in front earlier than she should be. I think she's got to be held up longer. I think Twice Over is a much better horse now than he was in August. You know? Got different shoes on him and everything, and his feet are much better. They used to be very sensitive, and once when he ran in the Eclipse Stakes, he didn't go at all. You know, I mean, he was feeding the ground and his feet, and he didn't. But we seem to have that problem.
He was always a nice horse and just had a restricted career at 3. He was always going to improve, and he has done probably more than I could have anticipated. But you know, he's gone through the handicap system and he's stepped up to Group 3 level and done it well. I feel he's entitled to have a shot, and we've been very keen to support the whole process of Champions Day, and we're very excited by the prospect of even having a runner. And it wasn't rocket science after he's won his 2 Group 3s to think, well, let's give it a go. I would consider we are a sporting outsider.
Well, one horse who has excelled over 10 furlongs this year has been So You Think. He indeed provides the outstanding form this season over that trip.
Yeah, I don't think you can argue with that. My one concern about him is that he's run very recently in the Arc, where I thought he had a pretty hard race. He was held up at the back and made quite a lot of late headway, and I just worry that he might have left his best form behind in Paris.
I'm not worried about that because I think this is quite a hard nut horse. He's a pummeler. He's taken a lot of hard races before. He's a mature horse. I think he can take that. The thing I really like about him is I think he probably posted the standard in the race, and he's done that run after run this season, I think. He's got course and distance form. I know he was beaten by Rewilding, but that was a top flight performance. And I just think he's the kind of horse that you can rely on, not just to give his running, but to set a standard of running that the others are going to have to leap up to achieve. He's kind of been hung by his reputation because he was meant to be a horse from down under with wings, that some people think he hasn't achieved what he was made up to be, but I think he has.
Well, a horse who has excelled at this track, but admittedly, Steve, over a distance further than the Champion Stakes, is Nathaniel.
Yeah, the distance is a worry. His 3 wins have all come at 1.5 miles, including the 2 here, and each time he's looked very strong at the finish. I'd have no worries about him trying further. I am worried about him trying shorter.
An interesting French contender is Cyrus Desaigle, who was just second to Bywood last time. He's got a bit of a cult following in France. Because he's a gelding, they like the fact that he's one of those battlers who hasn't quite been a top-notch Group 1 horse as yet.
No, he hasn't. He's yet to prove himself in Group 1 company. I think he's just going to fall slightly short. I do. I think he's a really likeable horse. He's very consistent. He's up against some top notches here, and I think he'll struggle.
A horse who's come to life this season has been Green Destiny, and again, we don't know how good he could go on to be.
No, I think he needs to improve, but he is improving. He's gone from handicapper to genuine Group 3 horse. He's getting better and better. Comes here on a roll in very good form, and you know, you have to respect him. But I do think he's got another jump to take on today's runners.
What do you make of William Haggis's right-handed theory? Because there's 2 poor runs from Green Destiny this season. They're both at right-handed tracks. Here at Ascot, when he was never travelling at all in the Wolferton Stakes, and also at Goodwood when he was dropping back to a mile. Do you think there are different reasons other than the right-handedness? Because I think there might be.
He thinks there are legitimate or perfectly reasonable other explanation for it, but he can't dismiss the fact that there is an explanation for it. At the moment, he prefers to think there are other reasons more likely, but it's there to be proven.
Okay, yeah. It's time to draw our selections up for the Champion Stakes. Lydia?
So you think? I think it's So You Think. I mean, he's been consistent, high level all season. He's proven around the track. I know he didn't win, but it's still a very high class performance. And I think he is not only got probably the best form in the race, he's consistently posted that level.
A midday for me. I think the track will really suit her. I think she's run terrifically well every time she's run this season. I see no reason why she shouldn't run really well again. And I think the track might, the short straight might be absolutely ideal for her.
So You Think for me, Pilsudski and Pride, they both won the Champion Stakes after running in the Arc. So I don't think it's going to be that tough a task for a horse who is already adept at bouncing back from a short break. And his 10 furlong form this year is second to none in the race, so it'll be So You Think for me as well.
What a fabulous race it is, though, isn't it? I mean, and the fact that he's coming here after the Arc really just adds to it. I mean, it's a superb culmination to the day.
And an international race.
Yeah, which is exactly what it should be.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. What a great way to end British Champions Day.